Good afternoon, Dr. Talamantes and fellow classmates. Today we will be talking about bilingual education of children, the St Lambert experiment, which was conducted by Wallace E. Lambert and G. Richard Tucker. Our group consists of Ms. Carolina Martinez, Ms. Crisis Monares, and myself, Abril Overgard. We hope you enjoy our presentation.
Hello, Dr. Talamantes and fellow classmates. So we're going to start with this part of the research that was conducted by Crisis Monares, and it's about when the program started. So we have that the St. Lambert experiment started in 1965, and it was mainly because a group of middle-class English speakers wanted their children to learn French, the second language of their country in Canada. The community was prominent in English, but Montreal was a population of 50% Anglophones and 50% Francophones. This immersion class gave instruction in French with one subject of English language arts. And the experiment makes, according to Lambert and Tucker, makes no attempt to replace the student's language by any other, but simply to add to the linguistic repertoire of the students.
Let's now connect the guiding principles for the dual language to the St. Lambert experiment. First off, we're going to talk about the program structure. The project was conducted because they had a vision that the bilingual education had a universal significance. The equity was of major concern for minority groups in all countries of the world, as this is an educational issue of first priority for citizens in most developing nations. The parent activism was enormous, and it led to innovation in local school programs. A well-organized and informed group of parents, supported by experts in this field, convinced a local school board to experiment with a program called the Early French Immersion. It was not easy. The parents had a lot of struggles, but they did get to their goal.
What is the model for language distribution? So the language distribution follows what Lambert called home language switch. This means that if the children were speaking native language was English, they will be learning in French and vice versa. English speakers were immersed in a classroom where instruction was delivered in French only in kinder and first grade. The effects found in the cognitive processes of this experimental group shown that students were contrasting linguistic structure of the home language and the immersed language. And from second grade to fourth grade, 2 half-hour daily periods of English and language arts were added. So basically we have that from kinder and first grade, all the instruction was done in French, and from second to fourth grade, 10% of the day was taught in English.
Connection 2, curriculum. The students studied the curriculum using the non-majority language at least half of the instructional time, with no loss to the academic success in their primary language. Some of the key points here is that it was an early start. It was as early as possible. Intensive, contextualized exposure to monolingual use of the L2 over a period of years. And motivating activities which engage the learner in understanding and using the target language. Connection 3, instruction. The first bilingual immersion school for English speakers to acquire instruction through French. This program immersed the native English speakers in the non-English language during the first 2 years of schooling. Today it is now known as the 90-10 model. The typical day program for these children, the day was divided into a 35-minute period. Only the fun subjects, such as physical education, music, and art, had English instruction. The core subjects, such as mathematics, natural science, language arts, were conducted in French. During the grade 3, the pilot experimental class was taught by French-Canadian teachers, as well as a teacher that was originally from Belgium. What was the biliteracy model for the St Lambert experiment? Well, first we got to understand that the St Lambert experiment was a biliteracy model of the first French immersion class. It sought to redress the failure of English school programs in Quebec and bring English-speaking children to high-level functional French language proficiency. The two languages were similarly classified with many cognates and comprehensively shared writing systems. They also represented very similar cultures with broadly shared beliefs and systems and values, daily life patterns, holidays, and artifacts, such as Barbie dolls. This common background minimized the linguistics and cultural gaps that the children were expected to bridge when learning their school curriculum through the partner language, according to Lambert, W.E., and Tucker, G.R. in 1972. Connection number 4, assessment and accountability. This was a longitudinal experiment that lasted 5 years of assessment period. And the conclusion about the progress of the experimental children of their two languages is as follows. Evaluating their overall intellectual and cognitive development resulted in no native language or subject matter deficiency or retardation of any sort. Moreover, there was no cognitive retardation attributable to the participation in the program. This is all according to Lambert and Tucker, 1972. Connection 5, staff quality and professional development. The native speaker teachers of the immersion language were widely available, and although they were not specifically trained in immersion teaching, they were experienced in teaching the required curriculum, and they were willing to do this in French instead of English. According to Lambert and Tucker, 1972, they recognized at the end of the longitudinal experiment that teacher training colleges will recognize the need for training programs accordingly as language switch programs increase in demand. Connection 6, family and community. In this case, the parents played the biggest role. They were the biggest advocate. The parents of the city of St Lambert, Quebec, had made an effort to get their children into the program, and they were very positive about it and about their children learning French. This support and encouragement probably led to the children's enhanced motivation for immersion learning. Connection 7, support and resources. Despite the continued rejection of the proposal, in the spring of 1965, the French supervisor declared that the early immersion method was undoubtedly extremely effective. Lambert and Tucker in 1972, you can find this on page 226. The board members finally accepted the proposal, and this was a big victory for the parents. Both languages were valued by parents, the immediate community, and the larger society, and this ensured a wide social support for learners.
In a dual language program, the most similar model that can be connected to the St. Lambert experiment in the distribution of the language is the model 90-10. Since the two models deliver academic content through the minority language and also English language, it's only taught 10% of the instructional time. However, we find it contrasting in this model in the dual language in the St. Lambert experiment. The difference is that the dual language model increases English language instruction every year until the percentage is 50 in the minority in the partner language and 50% in English language arts. On the other hand, the St. Lambert experiment uses the partner language for instruction the whole day in kinder and first grade, and it includes 2 half periods that are delivered. The instruction is delivered in English from grades to second and from second to fourth grade. We have more connections to the guiding principles for dual language education. We found that the main goals of the St Lambert experiment are similar to the dual language program. The aims for the St Lambert experiment are that students will be proficient in 2 languages. They will be able to read, speak, and write in English and French. Students also will reach academic proficiency through the use of 2 language systems. And students will gain empathy of French culture and English culture and become bicultural. These points are pretty similar to the 3 pillars of dual language education, which are high academic achievement, the biliteracy and bilingualism, and the sociocultural competence.
And these are the references that we used for our presentation.
Abril, Overgaard, Crisis Monares, and myself researched and collaborate to put this presentation together.
Thank you very much y muchas gracias.